Ladies and gentlemen, it's Hot Legs, straight from the Wine Exchange, with wine expert Kyle Meyer.
Today it's a little bit about the technique as opposed to the wines themselves, which are great. But the wines today are kind of like conveyors of what we're trying to explain with the technique of the famous Amarone wines from Northeastern Italy. Undoubtedly you've seen Amarone on shelves everywhere. What's an Amarone? Well, good question. We're going to answer that. Amarone. Now, the name takes, the core of the name is amaro, which is Italian for bitter. And basically the deal is, it discusses the bitter nature of Amarone wine when it used to be made a particular way. The wines usually had a kind of an astringent finish in the old days and were a bit lean and leathery. It doesn't really apply to what's happening with Amarone nowadays. So the wine, it's almost like they need to change the name because it's just, these wines ain't bitter anymore. It's a groovy process how they do this stuff, man. It is really unique. What they do is they harvest these grapes and then they dry them in these ventilated lofts on these straw mats, or they hang them on long strings. Now what happens is, while these red grapes are drying, it usually takes about 3 months. So we're talking about the middle of January into February. While these grapes are drying, they're not attaining mold because it's ventilated. So they're kind of raisinine. And what happens when grapes raisin? The flavors that are left in the grapes intensify. And man, these wines get intense. And we love it. Then they press the grapes in January as opposed to October. And the juice that comes out, drip, 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 makes these fabulous, rich, chocolatey, decadent Amarone wines. Unique process. Other parts of the world are doing it now. You know, there's a lot of other places, namely in Australia. I've seen it done in California. A lot of people are making Amarone style wines because during that drying process, these wines don't sacrifice acidity. So even though they're rich and chocolatey and powerful, they still remain somehow fresh and inviting on the palate. So we're going to talk about a couple really groovy Amarone wines today that have a great price, great story, beautiful wines. I'm going to start with the David Sterza. And David's a really cool young guy, vineyard guy, took over the family's winery in the 90s. Unfortunately, no one's talked to him about designing labels, because man, I think that label's pretty garish. I mean, all apologies aside, David, but you're Italian, man. Come on, bring me some drama next time. Labels aside, the wine is smoking. And this is the classic Amarone blend of Corvina, Rondinella, and I think Corvinone. And the Corvina is like the workhorse grape in Amarone. That's the one, that's the best grape in Amarone, and it's what makes the wine sing. And these same grapes make those Valpolicella wines, okay? So when next time you see a Valpolicella, think of an Amarone as essentially a Valpolicella on steroids. I mean, that's what it is. Same grapes, same area, same harvest dates, but that unique process is what creates the richness and intensity in the wines. And I really dig these wines. Now, they're not sweet. One of the misnomers is that Amarone wine is sweet. They're rich, they're deeply fruited, but they're not sweet. They're not dessert wines. These are what the Italians call vini di meditazione. These are wines to be enjoyed on their own near the end of a meal with a big dish of ossobuco or some big stewy thing or something you gnaw off the bone. Winter holiday wine, throw the windows open, let the snow come in, and you drink it like this. Ah! That's Amarone wine, okay? And David's wine rolls in that vein. He's got a relative by the name of Paolo Mascanzone, who just happens to be the winemaker at a very famous killer Amarone winery called Allegrini. And Paolo decided to make the wine for David too, which we love that, man, because this guy's good. Teeny tiny production, 2,000 cases between 3 wines. This has that sweet, cinnamony, okay, I said sweet, not dessert sweet. Red, dry red wine, yummy, fruity sweet, okay? Dried red cherries, cinnamon, spice. This is love, man. This is the holidays. And this wine tastes like the holidays. And that's why we're rocking the show right now, because I think Amarones go great during the holidays, man. Colder the better, bigger the meal the better. Prime rib, bring it on. And he's good. David Sterza is going to be a rock star. Just a matter of time. First time his wines have been in the country. We were lucky enough to bump into him with a really small importer, and yeah, going to be a rock star. No worries. And the wine, 35 bucks. Most great Amarones are twice that. And you can score this one, like I said, 35, 40 bucks. What a deal. And then there's the Musella. This is another reclamation project. The Conti di Muselli, or the Counts of Musella, established this property back in the 1600s. It's a huge property, like 1,000 acres, but not all of it's planted the grapes. But the grooviest part is planted the grapes. And recently, starting back in the early 90s, the property was redone. They put in a B&B and place to stay and fabulous new winery and all the bling. And the good thing is they're charging a ridiculously small amount of money for this winery, which for all the money they put in, these cats must have some serious jack, because the wine is awesome and it's cheap. So here's the Musella 2004 Amarone Reserva. Now here you see the influence of French oak. And sometimes, traditionally in the Amarone wines were made in the large old wooden barrels, like they do with the, in the old Italian picture, you see the big old barrels in the corner of the cellar. That was Amarone wine for years. Now they're using smaller French oak barrels to refine the wine. And you get it straight away here. There's that little bit of a vanilla kicker, a little more of the oak spice immediately in the nose. Go along with all those Christmas fruits. A little more immediate cocoa, a little more of a cocoa dust character, which you don't see here. There's more dried fruit flavors, and this is more that kind of rich, kind of luxe, cocoa-y, like rock star wine type vibe to it, which I don't mind one bit. Very lavish on the palate. Creamy, voluptuous, soft, tender. This is a little more, I guess the term soulful wine, and this is a little more new school. I don't mind it either way. And neither of these wines are amaro, right? Neither of them are bitter. They're just beautiful, yummy, tasty, jammy, decadent wines to have at the end of the meal, man. I think I've had too much wine. No, dude, we gotta have some Amarone, man. Okay, yeah, but I'm not driving. These are those wines. Beautiful. Love Amarone. Love how they make it. I'm a fan.